It has been absolutely ages since I've done a long distance cross-country journey in an electric vehicle. You'll remember me doing so commuting in the e-tron and in the MG ZS EV. And today, for the first time, I'm going to do a long journey in our new 2021 BMW i3. I previously did the commute to work. It's 110 miles each way in the old i3, which was a 60 amp hour range extender. And that was an experience. But today it's actually 210 miles each way from Gloucester to Norwich. I'm heading to the press event for the GridServe electric forecourt opening in Norwich, which by the time you watch this video, you'll probably have already seen. So I think it'll be a really good test to see just what is it like trying to use an electric vehicle to go long distance in 2022. Let's find out, shall we? So I took delivery of this i3 in December 2021, and quite surprisingly that was only about 3 months after ordering it. I know that the lead times for all cars had gone a bit crazy, and even by then I was expecting a longer wait. Thankfully managed to escape some of the chaos that seems to be going on now with i3 deliveries. Some people are getting them with the old small navigation screen and stuff, and other features missing that are supposed to be standard. So thankfully we managed to dodge that and get everything that I ordered. Now it's a fairly basic spec. I didn't bother ticking all the option boxes because you can actually make one of these seriously expensive if you do. We've got the blue seat belts, as you can see, the park assist package, and that's about it. Kind of wish I'd plumped for the comfort access, which is, the keyless entry and stuff. It's got keyless start, but it doesn't have keyless entry. You've got to mess around with the key fob to get in. A little bit annoying, but because the old car had comfort access, so it was a little bit annoying to then be without it. Although some of the stories you hear about people's cars getting stolen and them having to take very special precautions storing the keys somewhere, it's maybe not worth it after all. So I'm going to try and be a little bit brave this morning. We've got 147 miles on the guessometer. And Google Maps reckons the charging stop that I planned, which is at Cambridge Services on the A14, is 142 miles away. I think that's a little bit pushing my luck in a car that we've not really driven long distance. Do an awful lot of short around town work with this car. It's got 1,000 miles on the clock now, and this will by far be the longest journey that it's ever done. So I'm not even sure what to expect in terms of economy and stuff. So pushing it to the limit of what's showing on the guessometer might be a little bit ambitious, but we'll see. I'm just quite looking forward to this event today, the press event opening of the Norwich electric forecourt. First time I've been invited to something like that, so it's a good sign that the channel's not completely dead. Obviously having a hefty old hiatus whilst I was moving house and stuff, and well, trying to move house, definitely meant being a little bit stagnant in terms of uploads, but I think the previous work I've done hopefully shows that the channel's not completely dead, and I'm hoping this is going to be quite good today. Huge fan of GridServe, as you know, and huge fan of their work, so definitely looking forward to seeing what they've done with Norwich. It's a much different site to Braintree, much smaller, and they're built in a completely different way, so definitely be interesting to see what the sort of Act 2 of the electric forecourt rollout looks like. Braintree was certainly a hard act to follow, so it'll be really interesting to see what they've done with Norwich and how it stacks up. I'm sure, just like it was with Braintree, it'll be very impressive. Realised I never actually did a video at the Braintree electric forecourt. I have been there once. I went there on the same day that I did the rugby services video. If you haven't seen that, you should probably check it out. It was quite expensive in the grand scheme of things, given I took a day off work to film it, but and I've taken a day off work today as well. But the footage I took at Braintree didn't really work out. The audio was crap, so I couldn't really make a usable video out of it. So this will be my first proper electric forecourt shooting today. Hopefully I will actually manage to do a decent job of filming. I will bring you back either when I am perilously low on charge and hoping I'm going to make it to the charging stop, or when I'm at my first charging stop. I missed out a couple of stops, but here's how it went. I made it to Cambridge Services with 15 miles left on the guessometer. Cutting it a little bit fine, but not quite as fine as it suggested at the start of the journey. The two GridServe electric highway chargers there were in use, and actually there was 4 cars
parked at the two chargers, so I don't know if dual charging has been turned on there or not, but if it has, they were certainly fully being used. There are 6 Ionity chargers on that site as well. 5 of them were operational, 2 of them were in use, 2 of the 5. So I managed to charge there. A little bit expensive, of course, at 69 pence per kilowatt hour. Using the Ionity app to start the charge because I forgot to bring my Octopus electric juice card, which gives you a slight discount. BMW charging would give me a preferential rate because I've got an i3. I could sign up for an account with that, but I think you need to pay like 12 quid a month or something like that to get a cheaper rate, and I just don't travel long distance often enough at the moment to justify that. So 69 pence per kilowatt hour it was, cost me a total of £17 to charge to about 70%, which was more than enough to get me to my destination, which was the new GridServe electric forecourt in Norwich. Obviously long journeys probably being made a little bit easier when your end destination is somewhere with loads of rapid charges. All in all, the Ionity charger was good. I pulled the full sort of 49 kilowatts out of it that this car is capable of. Some may say that's a little bit wasteful when it's such a high power charger, but there was absolutely no way I was going to sit and wait for the electric highway chargers to become free. My time is just more valuable than that, so the extra £5 it costs to charge there versus on GridServe is totally worth it just to keep moving. It's quite interesting, Ionity. As we've covered in the past, charging there when I had the e-tron, but using the Shell fuel card that Onto provided to charge there was very quick and easy, starts the charge really easy. The app's fairly easy if you've got an account, which I do, but for first time users it really is quite confusing. I had to help a chap that was there. He was in a Volkswagen ID3. He was like a delivery driver. He was taking this car to someone, and he wasn't all that familiar with Ionity or how it worked, or EVs in general, and he hadn't been given by his employer like an RFID card or anything like that. He just had a bank card and he was trying to use it to start the charger and was wondering why it doesn't work. Now, for those of you not aware, Ionity chargers do not support contactless payment. You can't use a credit or debit card to start them. Contrary to popular belief, that is not against the government regulations. It's not mandatory to use contactless payment to start a charge. The only requirement is that guests must be able to use a charger without registering for an account. That is possible. If you go to the Ionity website, you can start a charge using your credit or debit card without signing up for an account. But that lack of contactless payment does create a lot of confusion for new drivers, and as I was helping him, someone else turned up that was confused as to why they couldn't start with a debit or credit card either, but they actually chose to go and wait for one of the GridServe chargers to become free rather than messing around with Ionity. And it is really interesting to see that it just isn't that user friendly, and they could do a lot more to improve that experience, and I think people will be willing to overlook the fact that it would be crazy expensive if they could just tap a card and away they go, rather than having to worry about whether you have the right app and the right account or the right RFID card. I must say I was quite surprised by just how busy the charging was at the services. So by the time I was leaving, more people were arriving expecting to use the Ionity chargers. The GridServe chargers were still absolutely rammed. I think a couple of cars had changed places, but they were very, very busy. And it really does show that the demand on the motorway network is getting a lot stronger. And although your Cambridge services is probably quite a good example, right? There are 8 chargers there in total, 6 Ionity, 2 GridServe. 7 of those were in working order. One of the Ionities hasn't been commissioned yet, and yet there was still like almost more demand than there was capacity, and there was definitely that sort of steady turnover, and if you go there at the wrong time, they would all have been in use and you would have had to wait. Now, I do find that very interesting, certainly since I was using like my MG ZS EV regularly. The demand seems to have rocketed since then, and I know that electric new car registrations have followed that trend, and you can now see that on the motorway network, at least in certain parts of the country, that the demand is outstripping the supply of chargers. Quite interesting. You come off the motorway a little bit, that demand seems to go away, but maybe it's also the time of day, so it's sort of after 6 o'clock at night, so it's quite likely the demand has waned off a little bit, roads are a bit quieter, but I thought that was quite interesting. I do wonder what it'd be like if I was at Cambridge Services now trying to get charge. That would be quite interesting to see. So to summarise the journey then, it was a 432 mile round trip. That needed 3 charging stops, one at Ionity, which cost £17, one at GridServe, which was £14, and one at Instavolt on the way home, which was £13.33. Charging to different states of charge each time, of course, but that was the cost that was involved. So that gives us £44.33 to cover 432 miles. I can currently charge back to 100% near home for free, but if you add another £2 to £10, depending on your home electricity tariff, that would give you your total. So 10 pence a mile for me, maybe a little bit more if you're paying for your charge at home. It's not that bad, is it? I don't think. Especially given I've used one of the most expensive chargers in the country on that journey. Ionity is 69 pence per kilowatt hour, is about as expensive as it gets. And of course, you can reduce that if you have an Octopus electric juice card, or you have one of the various manufacturer schemes that give you a discount at Ionity. So I think for those moaning about the cost of public charging, I don't think it's too bad really, and I don't think we can expect electric to be massively cheaper than petrol or diesel forever, but there's still definitely a little bit of a cost advantage there, I would say, especially in a more economic car like an i3, or some of the various models out there that are even more economical than that. Charger availability is definitely starting to become an issue though, especially on the motorway network. I think we're actually moving beyond reliability being the main thing that we'd worry about, and availability now being key. Although having said that, one of the Instavolt chargers at the site I used was broken, so we're maybe not quite there yet. I got lucky in that I didn't need to wait at all, and everywhere I needed to charge had an available working charger. But I can see how it could go south quite quickly on a busy bank holiday weekend. Certainly at Cambridge services, if I turned up at the wrong time, I would 100% have had to queue to use a charger. I hope that this summary is helpful to you. It's not all doom and gloom, and things definitely aren't as bad as some people are making out. But that is the state of play with travelling cross-country in an EV in 2022. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear about your tales in the comments about how you're finding the public charging network, and I'll see you next time.